Hey Richard, what's good?
Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good.
I'm
What?
good.
How are you doing?
Yeah, man, everything's okay. Neat video.
Yeah, thanks. It's yeah. When it was finally done, I felt with this video that it was not like amazing, but it it felt like at least the sort of like something I could call like a complete package. It has like I say stuff in the video. It has some kind of meaning to it and wraps together the footage nicely. So then my one of my goals is like not to try to over polish these things or like obsess about them. Just make some kind of statement as if almost as if like I was like having a conversation with somebody or just like trying to explain an idea, not in the best way, but just like in some coherent way, in sort of an abstract way, and just put that out there and have more content rather than like any sort of particular video be like the one piece of content that I like set uh like whatever the phrasing is, like I don't want to have like a video that I assign my self-worth to or something. Like just have them be out there as separate things. I have footage of Los Angeles that I'm going to try to do something similar with, basically.
Okay, right on.
Where
Yeah,
are you
thanks for sharing.
with are you still targeting making videos at all, or thinking something separate about like the whole music thing? Like I know you do you, how's it going with like your song production, and how are you thinking about that these days?
It's definitely missing. Um, well, with my lifestyle and things being up and all over the place, being able to sit down at the grand piano and really get into the swing of things just hasn't been happening. And I've been
Yeah, when
patient with
there's
myself.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely super hard. Like if like I imagine like playing music, creating music is something you have to be in the right headspace for. And if there's any turbulence, sometimes that can be helpful for like, if you feel on edge, it can be helpful for creativity. But if you're actually physically like, you know, tr- sorting stuff out, then it's impossible sometimes to find the time to actually sit down and just relax and get in the right mood.
I suppose what I can do is I can get one of those stands that have that nice LED light you can put your phone in, get a better phone, and then just bring that stand with me when I travel and seek out grand pianos in different locations, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, I've tried. When I was in Toronto for a little bit, I went to Long and McLeod, and they just had digital pianos, but that's better than nothing. I prefer the real thing, but it's just like I'm a minimalist slash nomad. So does it make sense for me to own my own grand piano? I'm starting to wonder. I mean, it sells. My Airbnb is doing well with the piano as like this sort of accent,
Oh yeah.
but it's also a pain in the ass. You got to maintain it, and then I can't move it on my own. Well, I can like push it along the floor, but moving it to a different location, yeah, I need like three people. So
I,
I don't know
mm,
if having my own grand piano is what I need to is if it's what I need. What I need is just flexibility, and I need to seek out pianos, and I need to just play. And if there's other people around, then there's other people around, and I just play a song. I just play what I want to play and get to that point. But I don't do it enough, so I'm rusty. I'll make mistakes. I want to be able to play where I don't have 10,000 cameras on me recording mistakes. More so, just I'm able to enjoy myself and come up with stuff on the go like I normally do. I usually just compose pieces on the fly. So, but I
mhm.
haven't been beating myself up about that. It is what it is. I've been very patient and understanding with myself. And it's not like I'm making a plan to go back and start producing a bunch of videos. It's just I'm managing my own expectations. So, I mean, I've come to realize I read this piece of wisdom in one of the books I'm working on. Actually, one of the books I finished. And that is, you can try to control others if you want to stress yourself out, but you actually don't have control of anything else except yourself. And I'm putting that into practice where I'm not trying to have too many expectations of my partner, or like I'm not getting frustrated that the system is what it is. I mean, it is aggravating, but I'm not just blaming the system and being helpless and being angry. I'm looking at myself and saying to myself, what can I do to change my situation? And I've been doing that for the last couple of years, trying to get better. And all my energy's been going into that to find what was making me sick. And it was my job, it was my career in the military. And, I'm making changes to get out, and I've done tremendous work doing that. And now, like, I see this cage around me, this financial cage that's set up by the system. And trying to, first of all, I'm trying to understand the limits of the cage. I can feel it around me. And I bump into it sometimes, but I don't see the full cage. I'm trying to understand, like, the law and, like, what's keeping me stuck in the middle class. Because I got a little bit of money, and more money than you can possibly save in middle class while living your life, working a great job. And, like, I'm here, and I'm still middle class, but now I have this chunk of change, and I'm like, okay, what do I do with it? Real estate isn't really that great in Canada. 20% down for $1 million home is a bit ridiculous. And then, you get the rental market, which isn't really keeping up. And so everything you buy is a liability. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I mean, I can't, I have to have more equity into a property so that it's not a liability, but then that doesn't make sense, because then that money should be elsewhere working. It shouldn't be tied up in a property. So it's just property costs, the cost of property are just too high to really grow a real estate portfolio the way I want to, the one that makes sense, where I'm maximizing my money. So I'm really looking into investing, and, like, I'm really focusing heavy in investing, understanding what everything is, options, and, like, I play this video game called, before I go into it, I see the whole financial world as a game, and we're all in the game, but a lot of us don't know the rules, and so we're fumbling around, and the tax man comes, and we're told, like, the basics, and go to H&R Block or whatever the American equivalent is, and might be the same, and, file your taxes. And, if you're fortunate enough to get a rental property, then okay, then you start discovering what it's like to be self-employed in a way, but not really. You're discovering that you can write off expenses, and, you're kind of discovering things, and maybe at this point you'll want an accountant to help you out, but you really don't need one because you just have the one property. So I think you're kind of fumbling along trying to figure it out. That was me. Unless, of course, you have a mentor that's guiding you through everything and teaching you everything they know, so you don't have to make mistakes. But
It
we're
is
all
tough,
in this.
like, it's tough to know who to trust. Like, if, like, if we view the stock market as a game, and we, like, I guess the rules of the stock market almost are, like, in flux, like, unlike an actual game with hard rules. Like the stock market, there's a lot of ways, like you say, to like write off expenses and things that alter the rules for some people that are playing the game, and they allow them to get an advantage. But of course, we can learn those loopholes and altered rules. And there's a lot of people that want to teach us like the loopholes or the secrets, but we're as much as we may take on like a mentor-mentee relationship, we're still technically like opponents in the game, like trying to get ahead of each other, and that enters into this whole like we don't know who we can trust. People may be helping us make a little bit of money, but also using us to make money, and it's kind of like a hierarchy of information, and like there's like insider trading, which is on the illegal side, but like you can approach that without crossing the line in a legal sense in some cases, and those people will sell you the information or something like that. Like uh, it's like it's like a game with no rules where anybody can kind of invent rules if they accumulate power or something. And it's like an interesting environment to trying to win in that environment is almost just like making other people believe you've won or something, and maybe like trying to say, well, it's like, well, I declare myself the winner and I'll allow anyone else who supports me to win. And then it's like it becomes like a political thing where like if you have people supporting you and giving you their money for you to invest, and you return some profits to them and keep some for yourself, like you can. But then I guess still, even then, at some point, it's not really about money anymore. Like what we all really want is like personal satisfaction and stuff, and that's a whole another piece. Like once we've won the financial game, we have to then exit. Like stop competing and sort of break free and take our modest earnings and like pursue something more meaningful or something like that. But it's very mysterious. It's very hard to pin down like what is everyone trying for, and what's the goal, and how do you win, and how do you exit the game, and it's confusing.
Yeah, advisors will tell you how to get to the top of the mountain, which is you've accumulated all your wealth and now it's time to retire. But a lot of them don't really seem to talk about what the exit plan is, like how to get down the mountain, how you're going to spend your money, when you're going to spend it. There's like the plan for most people is you invest in the stock market because the pension plans of the companies of the industrial age is done. And then we get CPP, which is not guaranteed because the government's kind of using it like a loan. And I mean, there might not be anything left by the time you and I retire. I don't think you got CPP. Are you gonna get, what is it? Canadian, yeah, CPP. You can still get it, right? You're still a Canadian citizen.
Yeah,
I don't know,
I think
the
especially in old age, whatever the Canadian old age pension is, I'll
60,
eventually,
65. But
I'll end up
yeah.
back in Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we can't really bank on that, and doesn't really pay anything. So we got to save up, amass a bunch of wealth in our RRSP or tax-free savings account, and maybe it's $1 million, maybe it's $2 million, and we live off of that interest, assuming the stock market is performing well and you have a good portfolio, whatever it is. And if the stock market doesn't do well, and you pull your money, well, then you start depleting your portfolio. And it's like people aren't made aware of that. The stock market doesn't always perform well, and I mean, you can diversify, which seems to be what everybody recommends. But yeah, I mean, there are times when the market doesn't do well, and your portfolio may not grow to where you forecast it needs to be at in order for you to live comfortably. And it's like a lot of people will work, amass all this wealth, and fucking die before they can even touch it, which is kind of funny, but not funny at the same time. And here's the thing is, like, if it's in the RRSP, it gets taxed to shit before it gets given to your dependents or whoever your beneficiaries are. And it's just like the transfer of wealth. So it's supposed to be, wealth should be generational, but the fucking government comes in and just like cuts it in half, not more.
I wonder about that, the generational, because I've heard with like with millionaires and billionaires, like they leave a lot of their wealth, and I think it does get cut down to some extent, but they still end up leaving like massive fortunes that
Life insurance
mean,
policies.
yeah, and that kind of means that like there's, these kids that are just born that have more money than anyone could ever earn, and
Right.
those kids become like today's rich people, and they've never known a life where they didn't have like tons of money. And it's sort of, a couple of people like Warren Buffett has said that he's not really gonna pass on a lot of his wealth. There's a couple of rich people that see this idea of like they're kind of against this idea of like making their kids instant millionaires. They rather just, give their kids a good quality of life, and then sort of have a balance where their kids have to at least hold a job at some point in their life to make ends sort of completely meet. And I don't know, I feel like that's a more of a healthy human way. Like it would almost be, it's unfortunate if a person gets like dumped a bunch of money on them, and that frees them of like the responsibilities that they might have to like society kind of, and thus they never get a chance to learn those things. And so I don't know, like for the middle class, where we just want to take the modest amount of money that we saved and hand it over so someone that might be related to us can like make use of it. I feel like there should be some protection there. And then like it's sort of like tax, like the cut should come out of like, if you're leaving more than $1 million, it can get cut down. But if if we just have a couple 100,000 saved and we're passing it on, I don't see why that needs to be like cut in half or whatever. It seems like that's just beating down the middle class, which like, that
That's
person
what the
did
government
well,
does.
Yeah, they
That's
sort of,
that's what it
yeah.
does. So that's the system, and there are ways to make it so that it doesn't happen like that. I need to discover what they are. But focusing on my death and handing off my wealth is, it's down the road. I need to build up something first. And whatever Warren Buffett does and all those financial people, I mean, it's up to them. I mean, how I see, if I was rich, wealthy, I even now, what I want to do is I want to groom the next generation. I want to pass on what I know to others. I'm learning it all at 34 years old. I needed to know this stuff when I was 18. If I had somebody talking to me about investments when I was a kid, I would have been like, oh, these Apple computers, the Macintoshes are cool. Let's invest in Apple. Well, no, I'm not even joking. But
Yeah, I
as a
know.
kid,
There's so many missed opportunities. Yeah.
you don't fucking, you have no idea. And no one in my family talks about this because they're poor, frankly. They have poor people mentality. They have a poor person's mentality. They just spend, and they have no financial education at all. Now, some of my family members have come into, like, one has acquired a house that had most of its equity pulled out of it to pay for debt because their parents didn't know how to manage money. And then I know someone else that inherited a house that had all of its equity in Toronto and then squandered it giving away to family who then squandered the money. Like, they just fucking pissed it away because they don't know what to do with it. They just spend, spend, spend. They have a poor person's mentality because no one's ever taught them what to do with money, how it works. And for me, like, I want to enable the next generation. I met a kid in high school at a Home Depot type store. It wasn't Home Depot. I was helping this carpenter build a platform for dancing for my community. And his name's Maverick. I was chatting to Maverick, and he's a good kid. Talking to him, I was like, I'm talking about giving him some of the conventional wisdom of going to school, getting good grades, and I was talking about the military and how there's a officer training program and the benefits of it, but also the cons, and just in case he didn't have options. And I asked him if he was interested in maintaining contact, and he said yeah. And so I reached out to him not too long ago, and I was talking to him about money and education. And I gave him some recommendations on books that I wish I read when I was his age. And he's like, I actually have the book. And I was wondering if I should read it. And I'm like, yeah, crush it now, and then let's talk about it. And that brings me joy because, I read that book and I was like I drank the Kool-Aid, man. But Robert Kawasaki, whatever his name is, has unconventional advice, and a lot of it's good, and then some of it's dangerous, and it's highly controversial. A lot of it's dangerous, but it's the kind of thinking that you need to break out of the cage. If you're afraid of breaking out of the cage, if you're afraid of taking chances and failing, you'll never break out of the cage. But if you want to break out of it, you have to be able to take risk. It's just, I think a lot of what he's talking about, what worked for him, might work in the States. In Canada, I think a lot of what he's recommending, like the ship has sailed on a lot of it. So I kind of also realized too that his rich dad, who he calls the rich dad, might not even really exist. And rich dad is just the accumulation of his acquired wisdom. And why I'm talking about him is because you talked about somebody who you talk about people who kind of like fake making it, and that's how they make it.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling that Robert faked making it, because I think it was his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that gave him his wealth.
I guess that is the expression though, like the fake it till you make it expression. It's usually seen as like a tool that people can use. Like it's kind of scammy. Like that's probably what he did. You know, like he faked it, and then like as you've said, the income from his book is his real income. But then the end result is that he did make it. I feel like that's not the lesson that he's trying to give us, but we can take that lesson of like we can do that too. You know, like we can fake it until we make it, and evidence is that it worked for him like in that way. And maybe that's ultimately like maybe the only thing that's true is like, you know, we're always going to be in this like state of not having success. We're never going to have like an unexpected success that then we can report on that's useful to other people, but we always might be in a position where if we say something that's kind of untrue, people will like lift us up, and then it'll immediately be true anyway. So then what's the difference? You know, like we said a thing before it was really solid, but because we said it confidently, like it led to us getting that thing anyway, which then, you know, it's like the order, it's like the order of causation, like the action and reaction or something like that.
Interesting.
Because yeah, it's tough to find an example where like doing something in the honest way, it feels today that there's a lot of like dishonest people moving very quickly, and that makes it tough to like calculate a formula that one can follow, because as soon as you've like, it wouldn't really work like this, but like it, you know, if you make your formula public, then everyone will know what you're going to do in advance, and they'll be one step ahead of you kind of thing, and probably they would use that info to like take your money basically, and like knowing like what your plan is or something.
I got some thoughts. So I would like to think that honesty is the best policy. I mean, it's easier.
Yeah, I want to think that too. Yeah, and it's probably true, I think.
But it's not, because you say you're a capitalist, an entrepreneur trying to make money. There's a lot of leftists out there, a lot of people that don't like it when other people make money. They envy it. They don't want you to be successful. They want you to fail. They don't want to see you ahead of them. Part of it's the rat race. They want to feel better about themselves. So sometimes, like, I was trying to flip a car, okay, a new car, because of how this market is and the scarcity, right? And it's just the thought that came to mind is, yeah, I'm going to lead you to this brand new car, which is cheaper than the used car that's for sale. That's $5,000 more than what I'm asking for. That has $35,000 on it. But because I referred you to this car at this dealership that I happened to stumble upon, and have access to and I have locked down for you, I'm taking 10K. People will get upset about that. You gave them a deal. You gave them something that they would not have been able to get on their own. That isn't on the market. That's better than what's on the market. But because you're transparent and you say, I'm taking 10K from this transaction, in order for that transaction to actually happen with transparency, people will walk away. I'm sure most people will walk away upset the fact that I'm not fucking paying this guy $10,000 to refer me. That referral is only worth maybe a couple $100 at most, because they are putting a value on my time. They're not seeing the bigger picture, and I think a lot of people are like that. And I think that's why sometimes you have to kind of shield the truth or find a way to do these transactions where you don't need to share what it is you're making from the transaction. That was one thought that I had. There were others. I just don't know if I remember.
Yeah, there are. I guess that's kind of how like stock fees work. Like when we buy a stock and a mutual fund and an index fund, there's always like a management company in there taking like some cut. But I don't really think they do anything for that cut. And I don't really know what the cut is. Like usually it's like baked into the fees in such a way where like it's not like I'm buying the stock product and I see like a receipt for like my purchase every month. It's just inside, like the price is
MRP.
inflated,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's hidden
they
in
try
it.
to
Yeah.
they try to outperform the average. People rarely can outperform the average. Or people say they can, and I say they outperform the average. It might be by 2, 3, 4%. If you're lucky, it might be 4%. But then they're going to take like 2.3% for themselves, the MRP, whatever it's called. Mutual funds.
And even if is it even possible? Like the S&P 500, I think it's just designed to follow the average, because like if I actually wanted to buy the average directly, I guess I would have to like buy one stock from every of the top 500 companies kind of. And like my alternative is to like buy the index fund, like the S&P 500, but well, the S&P 500 directly is this idea of but then you have to buy it through like Vanguard or some company that offers it, and they add a fee, but you never really experience that fee. I don't know what it is even. It's probably like it's small enough that it gets lost in the noise kind of. But that I'm just saying that as like an example of how like they've successfully hidden, like they're like a big like Vanguard, the company, they're making a lot of money, but like I've never paid them any money, like I buy what I believe is like directly the stock, and then they shave some money off, but I never actually know what that amount is
Yeah,
in like a
no,
transparent way.
I never thought
Yeah.
about that. I never realized that someone was getting their cut. But the Vanguard was just the name of it, and it actually pays dividends. It gives you like 0.5% or something. The S&P 500, which I thought was neat. So,
but definitely like that's like it should just be like me giving my money to the companies and getting a return on investment in like an automated fashion. Like there should be nobody's doing work to like publish the number or something like that, but like they're making money somehow as like a middleman. But
yeah,
like
they're just
it's like
buying
how
the stocks.
yeah
They're just buying
yeah
the stocks that they think will do well, and they try to balance
yeah
the portfolio with bonds, whatever else. Depending on what your risk tolerance is, will determine the stock to bond or gold or whatever else. So it's like I went for 10 out of 10 risk for my RRSP because I don't give a shit about it. And that's how you're gonna get the maximum growth. I mean, I really don't give a fuck, and it's long term too. So, I mean, 10 years could have like no growth in stock. I mean, I think that happened in 2000 to 2010, and the growth happened from the bonds. But like, if you're gonna get maximum growth, you got to take the most risk. You might be fucked, but I mean, it's RSP again. I don't give a shit. Government's gonna be taking most of that anyway. And when I get older, I'm gonna be living my life throughout my life. I'm not gonna just wait until I'm old before I start traveling. I'm gonna start traveling like soon. I'm thinking about going to Costa Rica in November, December. I'm just trying to, get settled in. Yeah, like, see different places. And then I have more to appreciate, more perspective. And then I can look forward to the next venture. And reading that 4-hour work week gave me that idea. It was really powerful that way. The mini retirements. And, oh yeah, that's right. That was the other thought that I had.
Right.
Like, for me, like, I don't need hundreds of millions of dollars to be happy. I mean, if you're a successful business owner who goes public on the stock market, can get that very quickly. And then now they're spending their time managing a business. For me, and I agree with this whole new wealthy term, the new rich term, rather, is that having freedom, free time, and the ability to, what was it? So it was free time and the ability to go where you want to go. I obviously backing that as like a passive income. And I mean, right now I could retire and I could live out of Canada and I can be like living like a king in most countries because of the passive income that I have. I'm able to retire now. It's just if I'm going to try to be in the rat race or rise above it in Canada, then I got to play the game. I don't want to be in Canada anywhere. I don't want to be anywhere in Canada except British Columbia. And when I'm there, I want to be mobile. I want to explore the island. I want to be in like a small RV or a mobile home that I can tow along in my little dinky truck, like my old truck that I have. I don't need this big chunk of land. If I am going to buy a detached on a piece of land, the only reason is because I want to create. I want to take advantage of the summer market and people coming in because the hotels, they're criminal how much they charge. I want to offer better rates than the hotels. And then here's the other thing I want to do is I want to offer experiences to people throughout the world to come to the West Coast and to go on the Juan de Fuca Trail. And if they got lots of money and they can plan shit out, the West Coast Trail, because, man, the entry price is ridiculous. But when I was going on the Juan de Fuca Trail, the only reason why was because someone at my job really wanted to do it, and they kind of heard about it. We did up all this workup training, and we planned out this route, and we did it. And there's a lot of growing pains, and there's a lot of pain, actually. And I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. Now it's like clockwork. And I see people on the trail who, like, really went out on a limb to do this. They traveled across the world, some from France, some from Germany. It's where I met Patras, or He-Man. He was there by himself with all this army surplus gear. And Justin and I, my buddy Justin, we were about to take off in the beginning, and we saw him. We were just like, he's going to fucking die on his own. Let's go bring him with us. And it was the best decision we ever made on the trail.
Yeah.
And we got to learn about him and what he's doing in Germany, and got to see all his super heavy-duty gear, and him dragging ass behind us. And he learned a valuable lesson. Pack light. And this is an experience that I can offer people. I can give them a place to stay that's affordable for the weekends surrounding the week that we're going to go on the trip. So they come in on a Friday or Saturday. We hang out. We show them the area. We go on some day hikes. We test out their gear. We buy any missing food or fuel. And then Monday we take off. We come back Friday. And then we get to chill out and decompress and see new areas. And they fly back Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
Depending, because if they have to go back to work on Monday. And they're going across the pond. I can do that. And for me, that is why I would have a detached, to be able to allow that to happen. And I'll have groups up to like 15 fucking people. I don't care. Like 20 people, as long as the campsites can hold them.
Is that something that Airbnb has built in? Like, can you offer a multi-day experience? Can you even set like the number of people that you need?
Yeah. But fuck Airbnb. This is gonna be a business thing. I might use Airbnb initially, but they take way too much off.
Yeah, once you can build something like a client base or something, then yeah, it's good
Yep.
to cut out the middleman. Yeah.
Yeah, they take way too much for what they do. And yeah, so I mean, that's why I would stay in Canada. And that for me is like I love it. And I would be on the trail all the time. I mean, I kind of see it right now. Me settling in Lanford in my condo. There's a resort up the mountain that I can go to every day. Super cheap if you live there, for the spa and the health center.
Oh, nice.
Out of the military, I'll get my free massages for my injuries that keep me going, and live that comfortable life there while I look for the property that's ideal, that's in between the Wanafuka Trail and the airport. And then, set up that home base. And the beautiful thing is, like, off season, I don't need to be there. Wintertime, I go south. I go to Costa Rica. And then maybe I can do the same thing in Costa Rica and set up an experience there. I've been to a yoga retreat, which I absolutely loved. And I maybe I can spend like half the year doing that. So, not a yoga retreat, but like this, someone like myself who doesn't know shit about going to Costa Rica, I pop up in the ad and be like, hey, you know, I set up shop here, created a community. Come on down. We'll ride some horses on the beach and we'll go fucking snorkeling and whatever your heart's content. Like, we'll do it. And then you'll build a property up from there. But that's like hosting experiences, getting people out of their comfort zone. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. That's a good way too. Like if you did plan like a new trail to cover your own expenses, is to take a group on it, and then like you get to do the thing, but your your costs are paid by the fact that you're bringing other people.
Yeah, I mean that's an idea too. Maybe if I get like a following, it's like, hey guys, if you like the Wanafuka Trail, I'm considering doing this one. And Patras has done a whole bunch of trails too, and he can even be the guide, and he can be like sort of a co-pilot, co-owner of whatever we want to call this thing. We call it like West Coast Ventures. I don't know, but see, this would be a business, but this is something I'm passionate about. I'm thinking of like everything else here. I don't want to sell shit to people. I don't want to offer services like investment services or anything like that. Like I can build courses, I can do whatever else, but that's not what I'm passionate about. I want to be in the bush, teaching people, how to survive and how to prepare for that. I mean, not living off fucking squirrel meat or anything like that. I mean, we're gonna pack some dehydrated stuff, but I want to teach people how to be comfortable in the bush and build that confidence doing trail stuff, because you have to build up to it. You can't be inactive, eat McDonald's every day and try to hit this trail. You would die. I don't care how strong you think you are. I still get I train for this shit and my feet still get torn to shit. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start wearing Crocs. I'm gonna start wearing fucking Crocs with socks, man, because I wear the combat boots, I wear the hikers, and every time they destroy my feet. And I saw a fucker on the trail with Crocs on, having a great time. Did the hardest part of the trail, happy, pig and shit. No issues with Crocs and socks. I was just like, get out of here.
Crocs are
And
also a good recovery shoe, like a good camp shoe. Like
they are.
It's good. Perfect. Yeah, whenever you can get your feet like into the, because they air out. Like maybe not on the rough terrain sections, but if you anytime you can take your shoes off and put on something that will let your feet air out is a nice recovery. Crocs are good for that.
Done it each time. Like on my last trip, I would take the boots off, socks off, Crocs were on, and I was walking through the little streams, which was just godsend, because man, like the cold water on my throbbing feet. Because I had the boots, the socks, all this heat build up. I got some hot spots. No matter, like, I got the merino wool icebreaker socks, and they're still being fucking beaten up. It's just I think the closer we can get to nature in any way, with our lifestyle, getting outside every day, what we put on our feet to separate us from actually stepping on the ground. I think the less we have on our feet, the better. I met a lady at the beach rocking minimalist shoes. She used to have bunions and arch issues. She's like, I've been rocking these minimalist shoes for 2 years now. All my problems have gone away. You know why? Because my feet are working the way they have been designed to work. Your feet will grip the soil to balance yourself. And if there's nothing to grip, there's no strengthening of your arch. Like I went into an osteopath, and he was like, okay, the community is kind of torn for whether or not you can rebuild your arch, if that's a thing. He's like, I believe you can. And he's like, I'm going to show you the exercises to do it. And he's like trying to talk me through it. And I'm like, I can't. I'm actually doing what you're telling me. And I'm trying to send the signal from my brain to my foot. And it's not happening. He's like, yeah, I guess it's been too long. And then he was showing me some other stuff, which was kind of compromising the knee. And in my mind, I remember this guy trying to show me this stuff. And then I met this girl who was talking about the minimalist shoes. I'm like, if I just rocked minimalist shoes, I'm sure I'd be doing the movements needed to retrain my arch. And anyway, I'm just kind of blabbing on about, getting close to nature, going back to how we evolved and taking away all the things that keep us from nature. Getting closer. Yeah. I think, we're going to be healthier and stronger and better in the long run.
Yeah, that stuff you're saying there, like getting closer to nature and removing, is definitely the way I felt when I went on a trip with this one company called Aspire, and like their full title is like Aspire Adventure Running, but it's not a race. It's just more of like a multi-day outing where you spend time at a campsite, and then they give you a route to do each day. And actually the one I did in Yosemite, like we drank out of streams and stuff during the day, and then we slept in tents, and they provided like meals cooked in a campsite at night. And this kind of also relates to like kind of what you were talking about. Like, if you create a company, because actually Aspire is created by just this one guy in Washington, and all his employees are like adventure guides that he pays like on contract for the amount of time they work. And like when I was on this trip, I met like one of the guides that was kind of like, he was driving the van, he was monitoring people, like doing a sweep during the day. He was like around camp helping with the food preparation, like that was his job. And he slept out of a van on the campsite, and he was not only working like my like 2 or 3 day trip, the one I was on, but like back to back, he was working like 3 in a row. And that's what a lot of the guides there were doing. Like they would do 3 trips in a row. Like different groups, like 3 different groups would come in and leave, and they would just do the same trip 3 times in a row. But that meant that like they were living in this campsite in Yosemite for like a couple weeks. But like the guy who owns the company he was in Washington at the time. He was like maybe running a different trip or doing something on vacation or something. So it was this nice model where some guy had, picked these nice locations like nature, these trails, and then hired the guides and planned out the trip and the logistics. And then, and that's a nice business to have. But then also if you're a worker in that business, you get to be out on the trails, just helping people along, and just being outdoors and meeting, like every 3 days you meet like another 15 people that are all just going to be outdoors together for 3 days. And that must be like rewarding as well. And so that seems like a strong like business model, because that like their goal is to get people just outdoors and seeing nature with not much in between. And definitely like it delivered exactly that for me. Like I just paid this, one-time fee for the trip, and then, they got me close to nature, while providing all the safety and everything. And I'm hoping to do one of their trips again. There's a mountain called Mount Rainier in Washington. I might do like a 3-day trip with them out there. But this is kind of like exactly, it's an amazing like business.
Yeah, talk to me offline about that. I'm interested in checking it out. Maybe model off of them and Because if I could just borrow their framework, I don't necessarily need to build this business up from scratch. I want to just do something I'm passionate about. Maybe I'll just be a West Coast guide for them. Because I could create my own
Yeah, that's
business.
what I was
but
thinking.
Then,
Yeah, like I would love to. It doesn't even feel like it would be a job, just like getting paid to like help other people, like connect with nature and do that yourself. And there seems to be parts of the job that are maybe like where like setting up tents, like driving, shuttling people around in a van and stuff like that. Less glamorous, but
people are fucking
yeah.
bringing their own stuff. This is a backpacking trip, goddammit. They're gonna bring their stuff in, food and all, but it's just prepping them.
Oh yeah.
And showing them how to do it, and passing on the lessons that need to be passed on before they actually go out. So the idea would be, like, if I were to connect with these guys and take the West Coast under their business umbrella or under their system, I can build what's it called, credibility, get my own clients, and then start my own thing where I'm not just offering these people the trail experience. I'm going to give them the before and the after as well, which was my idea with owning the property. And that's the thing is, I don't think I'm going to have enough money by the time I'm ready to move to the West Coast to buy the piece of land and to buy the detached house and to do everything I want to do. So, some earning is still going to be required if I want to actually obtain that goal. I could just, again, retire and live the good life. But if I want to do something bigger and really contribute, I need money to do that, which is nuts. I hate that. I hate that you need to have, in my mind, I need $1.5 million at least to be able to set up what I want.
Would you do like a small business loan from a bank or something for that? Or is that too like binding?
They're going to want everything. It's a lot of hoops to jump through. Yeah. I'm sure I'll be pretty close to it once I cash everything out. And then maybe my buddy Justin might want to go halves in it. I don't need to do it all alone. I can just be like the main, have like most of it. But then, anybody else is interested in supporting like a co-guide or whatever and wants to make some profit can buy in. I'm not going to have stocks, obviously, but maybe I could. Who knows?
Yeah, there's some kind of private equity that can be issued, not as like formal stocks, but like you can sign contracts that say that different people own like different percentage of the business or something.
Yeah, all stuff to look at.
I wonder, a thought I had like before we were talking about like RSPs and handing stuff over to the next generation, I was wondering, like, I think I figured out like what a trust fund is, and maybe it's that instead of like giving money as inheritance directly to people and having it be taxed at the time when you hand it to them, maybe you can get it into like a tax sheltered trust fund that doesn't, like, the trust fund exists as like a thing held by the bank until the person you gave it to is like 21 years old, let's say, and then they would like inherit the trust fund and perhaps then it would be taxed or maybe even deferred until they like withdraw the money. But like, I wonder if that's what a trust fund basically is like a way of letting an inheritance grow for an extra 20 years before it gets taxed, before it's officially handed over. Like if you sort of sign it in as like this money cannot be touched, therefore it does not need to be taxed, and therefore it can just be continue to be invested and grow, and then ultimately perhaps be taxed when the beneficiary like takes over the trust fund, or maybe it just says they'll get paid out in increments which will be taxed and the money will continue to grow like inside the fund or something.
I think it's just
what this idea is.
Question for the AI. Tell me everything I need to know about passing my wealth off to the next generation. Consider me a rich dude. And then, I'm sure we'll give you everything that you need to know. And yeah, I'm not even joking. I'm pretty sure.
It would do it. Yeah, for sure it would do it. Yeah.
It would. And that's probably a question I'm gonna have to ask it. How do I get my wealth to the next generation without it being fucking taxed? Exactly that, and cussing it and everything.
I guess
Anyway.
like I like to focus on like passing the knowledge. Like the wealth seems to be like, even if we get the wealth to them, is it really that useful unless we've passed the knowledge? And if they have the knowledge, perhaps the wealth is less important, and the knowledge, like. But the problem with passing the knowledge is, like younger people will never listen to older people, which is like that's the never ending problem, unsolvable problem.
Yeah, I think it's personality dependent. I mean, if the kid really wants to learn and the adult is able to like teach the lessons in a way that's interesting to the child and relevant, then yeah,
I
I mean,
guess
it
it's
could
usually
work.
interesting. Like kids don't listen to their parents, but they'll listen to like other adults. Usually they're
Yeah.
rebelling against. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a parental thing. It depends on the parents, right? Kids don't listen to the parents probably because of how the parents are. I'm not a parent, so but I see how a lot of them are out in public, and it's like I wouldn't listen to that. Like the parents are fucking is brutal. Like you don't yell at your kid. You don't. And the other thing too is like you gotta have discipline. You gotta run a tight ship with a kid until they earn. And I'm saying this not as like a parent, but like as a leader, which has been shown over and over again in history, and I've seen it roll out every time I interact with people, companies. It's like you got to run a tight ship. You got to make sure your expectations are clear and follow, and you make sure like you trust, but you verify often and heavily, and you keep people in line because if you give them too much rope in the beginning, they're going to choke themselves up, and they're going to choke you up as well. And I've seen it time and time again. So it's like you run a tight ship to start, and then as you see that they're meeting your expectations, then you loosen up and you trust them more. And if they fuck up, then you reel it back in and hold them accountable. And now, I mean, the
Yeah.
difference between a child and an adult is the child is like you're teaching them what's right and wrong, and the adult is sort of they're beyond that. I mean, you still can kind of show them, but um, if they're not going to play ball, you can just fire them and find somebody else. So, I mean, if that's an employee or a company that you hire.
Yeah.
But yeah, where am I getting at with that? Like,
Yeah.
I
You
know
can't
how
you
not to
can't fire a
parent.
kid.
I know how not to parent. And this is the thing. It's like I'm thinking about having kids, and I don't want to raise them in this society.
Yeah,
Too
that's
many
what a lot
people.
of people say.
Yeah, too many people have their hand in the pot and would have influence over my kid. Like my kid would not be going to a public school. Absolutely not. Public schools are there to build blue collar and white collar people to fit inside corporations. And I want to be on that. And it's all about the grades that you get, which is you not making a mistake. I want my kid to be comfortable making mistakes. I want them to grow. And it's complete opposite of what's happening in society. And I don't want other people's little shit kids or their parents anywhere near my kid. I want my kid to be able to develop with the proper mentors and the right. Come on, I know the damn words tip my tongue. I want them to have the role models. I want them to have good role models. And what's out there nowadays is nothing but trash, in my opinion. I get the occasional teacher that wants to do good, but they're so stretched and burnt out that I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, there's
I
so a lot of noise in the system.
Yeah, so I want to get away from the system and teach my kid what's up. And the wealthy do that. The rich do that. I mean, they shield their kids from the middle class noise.
Europe
And
is so nice. Like Switzerland, if you can get like citizenship in Switzerland and then send your kid to like a Swiss school, I think it's actually like good. People are nice over there, and the environment is nice.
yeah, some ridiculous rules about noise and cats have to be paired up animals have to be paired up so they're not lonely. But
Is that
yeah, the
true? I never
nature
knew that.
is
Huh.
the nature is unparalleled, and I have a friend out there, but it gets pretty busy, so I was hoping to be able to visit her one day. Check it out. Yeah, I might check out Switzerland and be like, I'm never coming back. Anyway. Alright, dude, I'm starting to get tired. I had a long day on the motorcycle today.
Yeah.
I
Anyways,
went from
good conversation.
Mississauga to Smith
Wow.
Falls, and I have to go to Ottawa tomorrow, so. But yeah, let's talk again.
Yeah. I'll see you next week probably.
Okay, man, take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.